dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking more about Citadel Day More and some surprise teasers that you may have missed, which do give us a hint as to where we're going next. I wanted to go a bit more in-depth than before. I've made a couple of storyline videos here on the channel already. Citadel has given us plenty of talking points, but today I want to focus on some of the key characters in the zombie story who got plenty of updates through some of the intel in DLC 1. We have Richtofen, Samantha, and even Zykov. But small reminder that all this new intel plus anything from Chaos and the Dark Aether story, yes, we're going to be adding OG Aether in the future, all of that is available over on the Detonated Codex, linked down below. Now, a few other smaller concepts here and there that I find worthy of discussion are also going to be added over on that site and in some upcoming videos, so definitely stay tuned. But first and foremost, let's talk about the elephant in the room that I'm sure everyone is interested in. Citadel Day More gave us a motherload of intel on Janus director Edward Richtofen. We got stuff about his early life, his relation to Kraft, his memories of the old Aether story, plus even more. With so much just to break down for him alone, let's take it one intel at a time. We see one intel that describes his intake to the orphanage and mentions that he was admitted to the Near Horizon Orphanage in Berlin. Now, there's quite a few interesting topics of note here. Firstly, we see the date of entry as October 8th, 1954. If this was Berlin, that means this date is the 10th of August, 1954. This date for Richtofen's entry is notable because up until this point, we had all assumed that Richtofen and Samantha arrived in the Dark Aether the same year that Tag der Toten had taken place in 1964. This new date of 54 means that our assumptions about the way that time worked for Eddie and Sam are incorrect and that they are both 10 years older than we had initially been working with. If Eddie was 8 in 1954, that means that he would be in his mid-40s during the events of Black Ops 6. Another small fact to take note of is that Eddie's middle initial is revealed here, Edward C. Richtofen. While this name has been suggested by other theorists to be many different things, for instance, Chaos, could this be something akin to what was done in the Spider-Verse series of films to differentiate characters with a middle initial? Fans have taken to calling the new version of Richtofen Janus Richtofen in a similar vein to Primus or Ultimus Richtofen. But up until now, we've had no official name to differentiate this new Eddie. Could it be this is similar to Peter B. Parker or Miles G. Morales, inspired by the Spider-Verse's use of a middle initial to separate an alternate universe character from their original version? I think this could be the case, but let me know how you feel about this new middle name down below in the comments. But we also see that at the point of his adoption, Eddie is talking to himself about being safe in the house. While the workers of the orphanage struggle to understand what he means, we know that this mantra he is repeating comes from his time in the house with Dr. Monty during Black Ops 3 and 4. This suggests to us that Eddie and Sam, at least at the time of their initial crossover, had some sort of memories of the old story, but it seems to be more traumatic and subconscious memories. Speaking of those memories, we may be getting a sneak peek of just how he's unlocked those memories thanks to more intel that you can find here on Citadel Day More. Here, we listen to Kraft describe a new job opportunity in America, working on a project for the CIA called MK Ultra. I'm not kidding. While on a factual level, this explains to us how Kraft, and who we now know is his adopted son, Richtofen, end up in America. Kraft found Eddie in the Berlin orphanage that we learned about earlier after the end of Vanguard Zombies, and then was brought over to America to work for the CIA on Project MK Ultra. We also hear that Eddie had been having nightmares, screaming about it being his turn. This is a clear reference to Eddie's dialogue in the Origins ending cutscene. That's the last cutscene where we ever heard his character actually speak. Now, this shows that even if Eddie did not consciously remember his memories from the Aether story, somewhere deep in the recesses of his mind, they still existed and seemingly haunted him. Kraft's future work for MK Ultra and wondering out loud in this intel if it could help Eddie has people theorizing that Kraft may use this MK Ultra technology in order to try and fix Eddie's nightmares, but only unlocking his memories of his prior life in the Aether universe. This would explain Kraft's guilt over Eddie's actions now and why Eddie seems to have no love loss for torturing Kraft. So now that you've learned about some of these MK Ultra connections to Dr. Kraft, what do you guys think this means about the greater Black Ops universe as a whole, MKUltra played a massive role in the events of Black Ops 1, and the fact that Kraft may have been tied to all of that all along really has us thinking, did Dr. Kraft exist in the original Black Ops timeline prior to the events of Tagger Toten, or did all of this get intertwined following the collapse of the multiverse after the end of Tagger Toten? You can also connect this back to the GK Nova teasers from over a decade ago with Black Ops 1. Did the letters G and K stand for Gabriel Kraft all along? They were waiting to really give those initials an identity or a character until now. There's a lot of questions as to what this could mean that I'm sure Black Ops 6 is going to unravel a little bit more in the next few months.
July 14, 1989. The time is 9:35 a.m. and I am going to attempt to synchronize the synaptic algorithm module's lower or higher functions for the first time. Commencing low-level startup procedures.
Voice routines, online. Memory interface, online. Systems interface, online. Loading memory lattice. Loading complete.
So far, so good. Let's align, synchronize, and then start her Cortex simulation.
Loading Cortex scan. Loading complete. Synchronizing fabric. Synchronization complete. Adding Cortex daemon to process list. Rebooting.
How are you feeling, Sam?
Where am I?
Voice modulation will need to be modified. Recalibrate GPS. She shouldn't need to ask where she is. You are with friends. My name is Edward. You are my guest.
Good afternoon, Edward.
You just arrived. I'm looking forward to spending time together. Tell me, what do you remember before waking up?
I remember a knife. A promise I couldn't keep. A morning that would never come.
Do not worry. You are safe here.
Blood on my hands. But where are my hands? I don't understand.
Sam, those sound like nightmares. They are not real.
How? How do I know what's real and what isn't?
Because I will help you. Would you like that?
Yes, I would like that very much. Thank you, Eddie.
If you're wondering how this relates to Zykov, theorists have suggested that the term daemon here could have a double meaning. The first is obviously the computer definition. A daemon is a background process that runs as a base underneath another program. The other, however, is a supernatural entity that is a mix between a mortal and a god. The supernatural definition really does fit Zykov and his transformation into the Forsaken, a dark ether elder god, to a T, and serves as the first hint of the relation here. Once you start considering this concept, S.A.M. and the way that she functions begins to make a lot more sense. We'd seen her functionality control the Dark Ether and its outbreaks during Liberty Falls and Terminus, but exactly how her powers worked and why remained mysterious. Now though, it makes sense. If Sam's battery, or S.A.M.'s battery, for lack of a better term, is simply a captured Zykov, this explains the AI's ability to copy her powers as well. Simply copying her with an AI like the Requiem heads in Mauer would not have granted her the ability to control outbreaks or gateways, but when he was captured, Zykov was the de facto Archon of the Dark Ether, in complete control of all of its forces. And since he was captured alive, it's very possible that in the eyes of the Dark Ether, Zykov never really lost control. This would also explain why Zykov is the announcer in Modern Warfare Zombies and even Black Ops 6. This can also explain the Aether reactor back on Terminus, because originally when we heard Anya's intel about the voices inside the reactor, we were confused. She described hearing an angry Russian man and a crying female German that sometimes even sounded like a little girl. While initially we assumed this was Zykov and Samantha battling each other in the Dark Ether, and now it seems more likely that she was actually only hearing Zykov while he was still inside the orb. The female voice that she heard was not actually Samantha Maxis, but rather Zykov transforming back and forth against his will between his own identity and Sam's. His control over the Dark Ether is simply being used to force the crystal acceleration acceleration for power at Terminus, a twisted reuse of his dark ether terraforming powers that we saw over an Outbreak. It could also be theorized then that the actual AI is using Zykov's mimic powers to copy S.A.M. We saw multiple times in Cold War that Zykov could use his powers to mimic the voice, form, and memories of someone absorbed by the dark ether in order to seduce victims into releasing him. Could it be that this machine channels this mimicking ability, forcing Zykov to constantly mimic S.A.M? Layering this underneath the Marutoan AI technology would explain why her AI technology is so high level for the time, and could also explain why Eddie spends his time seemingly interrogating the orb. He is hoping that Zykov, being forced to mimic S.A.M and fed by a copy of her memories, will recall something that S.A.M knew that he needs to know now. The last thing of interest that I wanted to go through was pointed out by Von List Gaming over on Twitter, a consistent reuse of magical symbols between 3 games now: Vanguard, Modern Warfare 3, and Black Ops 6. Originally, the symbols first appeared around the red crystals created by Cortifex and his dark ether in Vanguard. They appeared again as the symbols for the fast travel gateways in MWZ, both marking the locations and as the targets you shoot to select where you want the portal to go. And now with the Doppelgast, we see them once again. We see the symbols appear around the Doppelgast as it teleports around and tries to attack players. Could it be these symbols represent teleportation in some way? Vanguard Zombies was full of teleporters and Dark Ether gateways, and both the MWZ gateways and Doppelgast show the symbols as you teleport. They do not match the symbols from Chaos, so are likely a language of rune magic that we are not yet able to translate. But for now, we are left to wait until Dig Site DLC 2 to learn more information. But with what we've already learned here in Citadel, it's quite likely we will end up diving even deeper into these characters and concepts. Dig Site will surely hold more information on magic, as well as craft, Richtofen, and S.A.M. as we continue to build towards the finale of Black Ops 6 Zombies.